Hey guys, Technomeasure with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 11 here with the iPhone SE, first edition of the iPhone SE. In a head-to-head comparison, we take a look at the hardware, the software, and the overall performance of these two phones in 2021. We're going to take a look at everything that you need to know, whether you're thinking of upgrading from the iPhone SE to the iPhone 11, and whether you are in the market for either of these devices in terms of what are you going to get out of your money and which is worth your money to buy in 2021. All of that and much more we're going to discuss. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of these devices at a discounted price, make sure you guys check out the link in the description section. So let's go ahead and get started. Why are we doing this video? Well, the reason why we're doing this video, you might be wondering, is because there's a lot of things that we don't know about, and especially with iOS 15 coming out and iPhone SE, which is a big shocking news, it's going to be supported on iOS 15 like the iPhone 11. It makes you wonder, well, what is the difference between these two phones and what do you really need to know if you're looking at both of these two phones, because that does make the iPhone SE relevant in 2021 and possibly in 2022 as well. And this is why we are comparing these two phones. And to compare these two phones, let's talk about the actual release date. The iPhone SE here was released in March of 2016, so it wasn't during its Apple's annual flagship phone release date around later in the year, around somewhere between October, September, even November time period, where Apple generally makes that big announcement. This is where the iPhone 11 comes in, and one similarity between these two phones are that these phones are not the premium lineup flagship phone. The iPhone 11 here, not the 11 Pro or the Pro Max, which are the premium 1K phone. These start at $599 even in 2021. This is a thing where Apple released these two phones as sort of, if you will, in quote unquote cheaper model, but necessarily $599 isn't quite cheap. But if you compare to that $1,000, it does look like it's a cheaper phone with a lot of the unique similar features of the iPhone 11 Pro lineup. So let's talk about the actual body build of these two phones. As you'll notice, if we hold them side by side, is the massive difference between these two phones just by holding it side by side, because the iPhone SE here does have a 4-inch display compared to a 6.1 display. It's just huge when you hold them side by side. Just comparing these two phones, as you see in my hand right now, the iPhone 11 here with that two dual 12 megapixel camera versus that one 12 megapixel camera on the SE. You'll notice things like that design on the iPhone SE. You have this one's space gray edition of it. You can also get the other color as well. The iPhone 11 here comes in multitude of color. As you know, it comes in blue, green, and much more color. We'll notice things like the logo and the Apple symbol, slight differences. The Apple logo used to be on the top edge, now more towards the mid, and the writings are completely gone on the newer phone. This iPhone 11 is not fake by any means. So you'll also notice other things, as we noticed between the SE and the 11, is that rounded bezel versus that flat rounded bezel, which the iPhone 12 lineup actually brings back. So big shocking for the Apple, for anyone using iPhone when they saw the Apple 12 lineup, because of that design coming back into play, which used to be part of the iPhone 5 lineup as well. So big changes from Apple, bringing back that legacy design that we've seen. And now let's talk about the actual build of these two phones. Of the actual body that we talked about, is that the iPhone here, SE here, does have that premium body that's pretty durable in a lot of ways if you think about it, versus the iPhone 11, which is for front and back being all glass. So what that really means is if you drop it, you can easily, as you can see, we can easily crack the back and the front easily without any issues. And that's where the next topic we talk about is the water resistivity of these two phones. The iPhone SE, unfortunately, you shouldn't be taking it for a dive because it isn't water or splash resistant. The iPhone 11, on the other hand, it is a water resistant phone, but it is IP68 rating, which means it's able to take a dive for 2 meters up to 30 minutes. But because of the front and back being all glass, if you have any crack on the back or the front, the phone becomes easily water compromised and probably wouldn't be recommended to take it for a dive. And let's talk about the display of these two phones. You'll notice between these two phones, the display here, as you notice, is big in the iPhone 11 compared to the 7. It's almost a night and day difference in terms of the display sizes. The iPhone SE here, 4-inch LCD display. It has a 1136 by 640 pixel resolution, and it has an 800:1 contrast ratio. Not impressive when compared to the 11. Of course, it is a Retina display, but then when you get to the iPhone 11, this is a liquid Retina, so slightly different between the regular Retina versus the liquid Retina. You also have the all-screen LCD with the IPS technology, similar build of the iPhone SE. Because of that liquid Retina, you have a 1792 by 828 pixel resolution, so higher resolution because of that liquid Retina again, with also a contrast ratio of 1400:1 compared to the iPhone SE here. Things like True Tone, which we sort of want to mention because this is a new thing that came out with the iPhone 8 lineup, is that True Tone, which allows the phone to be able to adapt to the ambient lighting based on the environment they're in, which makes when you're using the phone just a little bit more realistic. And last thing, the brightness, which compared in terms of the nit, the iPhone 11 here gets you 625 nit of max brightness versus only 500 on the iPhone SE here. And let's talk about the battery life of these two phones, another important aspect when you look at these two phones, because one phone is huge versus the other one. And surprisingly, because the iPhone 11 here has a 3100 mAh battery compared to the iPhone SE here, you would think, of course, the iPhone 8 here outlasted the iPhone SE in a battery lasting competition, if you will. The iPhone S11 here is actually able to play video up to 17 hours, so it gives you 17 hours of video playback, which is a good indicator that the battery is really good. If you're light to even a medium user, the iPhone 11 will get you throughout the whole day, so that's good news. Of course, if you're really a heavy user, so if you're constantly on the phone doing a lot of stuff, multitasking, probably get you 3/4 of the day before you need a charge, so that's comes into play. And let's talk about the iPhone SE here in terms of battery. What kind of battery can you expect? Well, it is a smaller battery, and it's almost because it's a smaller bodied phone, it doesn't use up as much power. That's why it's able to give us 13 hours of video playback, which is, for its size, it's pretty comparable. It's not the greatest, could be better, but that means if you're a light to medium user, probably get you, we would say, 3/4 of the day, unlike the iPhone 11, which could get you throughout the whole day. And if you're more on the light, for medium to heavy user, probably get you half of the day before you do need a charge. We do notice in 2021 running iOS 14, which is another aspect we want to talk about this phone, is that the battery drains a little bit quicker, surprisingly. Maybe it's something Apple has done, but the iPhone SE here, as you know, can update to iOS 14, which we updated this phone. You have this bigger icon, app library, back tab, all these other neat features that come with the iOS 14, which we see between these two phones. And let's talk about the actual camera of these two phones. So if you're a photographer, you probably want to care about this a lot. And simply, why do you not care about these two phones? Back camera. And because we take a look at the camera, one thing you'll notice between these two phones, they're actually able to take HD photos. The difference between these two phones is that at portrait mode, which is impossible because of that single camera on the iPhone SE here. And other thing to note is video recording. Of course, both of the phones can actually record in 4K. The one thing missing on the iPhone SE here, that it's not able to record at 60 frames per second. So if you're looking purely on video recording capabilities, the iPhone SE only has one setting, which is 30 frames per second. And the iPhone 11 here, you go 24, 30, and 60. So those are other things to note between these two phones. Other features such as night mode and, of course, extended range because of that second wide angle camera. The iPhone 11 here just has a better camera built to it. So purely on camera, iPhone 11 wins. Updated camera like Apple does with newer phones, that's a given. And getting back to the software of these two phones, the iPhone SE surprisingly got iOS 14, and we were really shocked when earlier in the last couple of weeks, Apple has released that it is going to be supported on iOS 15. So it's a big news for Apple. And why might that be a big news? Because this phone is such an old phone. It's almost past close to its 5 years. And along with this one, iPhone 6s and the 6s Plus, which everybody thought that Apple was going to drop the iOS 15 update release, so they weren't going to get it. Surprisingly, we'll get it. So kudos to this phone for lasting even longer than we expected. Or the iPhone 11 here. As you know, iOS 14 is meant for this, and it's going to be pretty much a phone that gets another 3 to 4 years of updates. So a phone, if you're looking for a phone to use for that long, the iPhone 11, of course, will give you that sort of life. With the iPhone SE, probably another 2 years you can get out of it, since we know iOS 15 is going to be supported. So it's going to be relevant this year, even next year. So it's going to support it. How well is it going to perform? We're probably going to do some testing to show you guys sort of the things that you can get out of between these two phones. Nonetheless, both of these phones are great for things simple. If you're looking for simple basic calling and texting and don't need all of that fancy stuff, both of the phones does a great job. Even for browsing and things, both of the phones does an excellent job. Both of the phones are able to download all the popular social media apps, your gaming app. Of course, when it comes to gaming, because of the power of the chip on the iPhone 11, gaming experience on the 11, you can't really compare to the SE. SE does not have that sort of power. Other thing to note is because that 4-inch versus a 6.1-inch, things like when you're watching videos and things like that, if you're looking for a phone specifically to use it to watch a lot of videos, you probably want to go with the 11 because of that bigger bodied all-screen display. Just gives you a lot more clear image, and the watching it just makes things a lot more easier on the eye overall. So between these two phones, why might you buy the iPhone SE? Well, let's talk about the iPhone SE. You might think, well, obviously the first thing is it's a really cheap phone to get compared to the iPhone 11 in 2021. You could probably get this phone for really under $100, maybe even $60, $70. Depends on where you look at it. That's why you guys need to check out the link in the description section. Of course, if price and budget is a big factor where you need a phone that gets you to do your basic calling, texting, browsing, light usage of things like, actually browsing around, and a phone that's really small and still has that fingerprint reader, and you really like those compact small design, which Apple is even bringing that design back. The iPhone SE is probably what you would pick in that scenario. Smaller phone, lightweight, will be relevant this year and even next year. So that's where the iPhone SE falls in. And why might you consider the iPhone 11? Well, a lot of reasons why. It's a newer phone. It's going to be relevant for another 3 to 4 years. And other thing to note, of course, the camera. We saw it has portrait mode, more capability when it comes to recording, night mode, all of those features. And other features to compare is that if you look at purely a phone for gaming or speed test, when you do speed test, the iPhone 11 is a 3.4 GPU faster CPU speed we've seen on the iPhone 11 versus the SE here. It has 4 gigs of RAM, internal RAM, which Apple doesn't disclose compared to the iPhone SE here. So almost 50% more RAM. Again, comes in play when you're doing multitasking, when you need a phone that's able to get you throughout the day, is able to game, able to take some phenomenal pictures. That's where the iPhone 11 comes in. And of course, the 11 here is pretty much similar in a lot of ways in that aspect. So the iPhone 11 here, as you know, just overall, you're paying almost close to $500-$600, but it comes with a lot of features that aren't possible on the SE. Nonetheless, SE is a budget-friendly phone, we think, for you if you're looking in the terms of getting a lot of features, but are really mindful of your budget. So between these two phones, that's our overall review of it. Was it worth upgrading from the SE to the 11? Absolutely, if you have the money. But if you're looking for a phone to get to do basic stuff, SE will get you by, but by no means can compare to the 11. So there you guys have it. We want to hear from you guys. if you guys use one of these phones or currently using them or upgraded from one to another, leave a comment in the comment section. Also, if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.